Welcome to another episode of UCRD Reviews. So today I have an interesting P. Bandai set here. This one comes from Mobile Suit Gundam. More specifically, episode 15, Kukuru's Doan's Island. This is the Zaku II and Zeon's Reconnaissance aircraft set version anime. Oddly enough, they didn't put MS-06 anywhere in the name, which I think is the first time we didn't have a model number for a mobile suit release. But anyway, this set comes from, like I said, episode 15 of Mobile Suit Gundam, which is a lost episode. It was aired in 1979 and pulled from subsequent airings and from home video releases. There's a couple different reasons for that. The animation was especially poor in that episode and was often mocked by fans. The storyline wasn't all that necessary, and there's just a lot of goofy moments in the episode, a lot of hand-to-hand unrealistic combat with mobile suits, a lot of throwing boulders, and as you can see right there, throwing a Zaku like a javelin. That happened in the episode. It was really interesting. The episode gained a lot of popularity when the Gundam The Origin team made a manga within the Gundam The Origin universe, going over the episode and kind of fleshing out the story, making it make a bit more sense, and adding the realism back into it, which is what Gundam The Origin does best. They also recently came out with a theatrical movie based on this episode in the Gundam The Origin depiction, which goes back to this figure and probably why it was released at this time. However, this figure is in regards to the original Mobile Suit Gundam depiction, not the Gundam The Origin depiction. So it's going to be a little weird looking, but we'll go over all that. The Luggan Recon Fighter, which you see here, included in the set, is something we haven't seen since the MSIA days with the Zaku II vehicle set, which comes with the Magella tank, the Dot Fighter, and this Luggan Recon Fighter. That was released in North America and Asia a long time ago, and now we finally have an update to this support craft, which is pretty cool. So let's go ahead and check this set out. So this is a really interesting release as it depicts the Zaku IIs in the episode 15 of Mobile Suit Gundam specifically. Obviously we have the Zaku II in the Robot Spirits line already, but this one is identical aside from the legs. We'll do a comparison with the other Zaku in a minute, but you can see the legs are much more slender and they have no detail on them whatsoever, which is really interesting. Every other piece of this is identical to the previous release. Now, I'm not going to go over articulation or features, as we've seen many Zakus on this channel. If you're new to the channel, feel free to check out my other videos in my catalog. Check out some of the other Zaku IIs, and you can see general articulation. This is a very well articulated figure, and it has a lot of cool features like a movable mono eye and lots of storage all over it, and it is effect part compatible on the back and feet. But I found it interesting that they changed the design of the lower legs here. Thought that was kind of weird, but it makes sense, and they feature the same articulation as the other Zaku II release. So let's check out the accessories, because that's where this release gets a lot more interesting. So first off, like every other release, we have our hand rack, and we have heat hawk hands, gun hands, posing hands, two different sets, and then we have these hands here that are new. These have pegs in them here. So really interesting, and we'll go over what that's for in a little bit, but there's a hint. So those are the hands that it comes with. We also get a standard Zaku machine gun. It's the same one that we have with many other releases, and it has the removable magazine and swiveling front handle. Looks nice, but there's nothing really different here. And now we get to the first interesting piece. We have this Zaku head that is much more squished and has a sloped front nose to it, Really interesting looking, almost looks like a goof head. This is actually based on the pretty consistent animation error that was shown when depicting Doan's Zaku specifically. So we'll go ahead and remove this head and attach Doan's Zaku's head. The top is still removable. Mono Eye can still move around like normal, but you can see it has that sloped front end. When it was depicted in Gundam the Origin, they explained this off as, Doan being a deserter, he had to fix his Zaku with different parts, and that's why his Zaku head looked a little bit different. But in the original Mobile Suit Gundam episode, it was just consistently poorly animated, and now again it's become kind of a cult classic look. So this is Doan's Zaku. Really, really interesting. And going alongside that, we have some accessories that Doan's Zaku would typically use. He didn't have any actual weapons. He would use boulders or his fists. This larger boulder here has a stand piece there, and this is where the Zaku's hands would attach. Those hands with the pegs. And same with this little boulder here. You have the attachment piece for the hands to depict him throwing it. Let's go ahead and put those hands on real quick. So now that I have those in, you can see they just peg right into the boulder. So on this littler one, even on the larger one, he can hold it up one-handed, which is pretty nice. There is a slot here for the other hand, as mentioned earlier. They look good. Kind of an odd accessory, but again, it makes sense since this is what Doan used against the Gundam in that episode. So now we get to my favorite part of the review, the Luggan Reconnaissance aircraft. Now again, we haven't seen this since the MSIA depictions, so it's pretty cool. We have 20mm twin machine guns on either side here. They are movable. You don't want to move them with the, you don't want to push the barrels because they'll snap. You can see they go up and down, and then they'll go side to side. We're going to push the body of them, and they'll go all the way back about that far, and then they'll come forward about that far on either side. So really neat. You have the missiles sculpted in. There's 2 on each side. I think it doesn't list them, but I think there's some anti-aircraft machine guns underneath the cockpit there. You can see the cockpit with the 2 little pilots in there. There's actually another cockpit inside here. These are the radomes, so when they're up like this, they're for anti-aircraft radar, and then they can be dropped down to have to do like ground radar, which is pretty cool. There is a bomb bay in here, although it's not depicted on the figure, so it can drop small bombs. And this one has landing gear. There's also hard points for effect parts like explosion effects. It's very neat looking. I like the colors. It's painted well. It was also shown in 8th MS Team briefly, but this is obviously the Mobile Suit Gundam depiction of it. And we get these little clear pieces. You get 2 of them, and these actually clip onto the wings and become like a handle for the Zaku II. The Luggan fighter was actually powerful enough to carry a Zaku short distances by hanging off the back of it. And so you can put these on either wing and hang a Zaku figure off of it, which is pretty interesting. The old MSIA came with kind of a ladder looking thing that would come off the bottom of it, which is also depicted in Mobile Suit Gundam, but this hanging off the back end was what was shown in Doan's Island. We don't get the ladder accessory, which is a little disappointing, but at least we have an alternative. So let's check out the landing gear. So just like any other fighter, you have really interesting landing gear. Here's the 2, I think these are the side wheels, really interesting. And we have the front ones, if I can get them out of here. There we go. And there's the front wheels. So really cool looking. Let's go ahead and plug them in. Just like that. Now these, they have to be oriented in a certain way. You'll see there's a peg right there. And that peg's going to go toward the back of each side. I think the side doesn't matter as long as they're oriented the right way. So same with this one. And there you have it. There is the landing gear with its green wheels. Really interesting. So let's go ahead and do our Zaku comparison. Alright, so here's the two Zakus side by side, and you can see the obvious difference between the heads of the Zakus. So the Doan's version's a lot bigger and more sloped, and then you can see the difference in the legs as well. So go ahead and flip them around here. You can see that they're much more slender, still retain the overall basic shape, but they are void of any of the detail markings or features. They are otherwise identical, and again have all the same features in the torso and the arms and the rest of the legs, but very interesting. The difference the head makes in the design, it looks like a totally different mobile suit, even though they're mostly identical. So I did want to show here how the Zaku attaches to the Luggan Recon fighter. You can see he's hanging on to the clear plastic handles there. They just snap into the wings. And there is a stand piece where this point is right here on the bottom of the craft. It comes off. You can actually, snake another stand piece over to hold the fighter up, but it's so light the Zaku can actually hold it of its own accord. Now if you have a flimsy Zaku like that, that's where you're probably going to want the stand piece, but for now, while the joints are tight on this one, he can actually hold the Luggan Recon craft up himself, which is pretty cool. I did want to briefly mention I completely missed in the accessories that it actually comes with this piece here specifically for stands. So you can see where it connects to the stand piece there, and this is included in the set to help connect the Luggan to the Tamashii Act 5 stands. So I think the big question here is this set worth it? It is a P Bandai release, which means it's going to be a bit more expensive and harder to find in the secondary market, and I picked it up on pre-order for $77 and change before shipping. Now, I think this is more of a collector's piece than anything, unless you're wanting a display of the Doan's Island episode. I don't really see the point in buying this, and for $70-something, buying it for the Luggan Recon craft isn't worth it on its own. And in my case, I like having the Zaku. I wanted this, but I think for many, this is going to be an easy pass. The Zaku is based on a lost episode. The sculpt of the Zaku is literally based on animation errors, and it doesn't come with much. Zaku machine gun, some unique hands, a unique head, and a leg sculpt, and then a couple boulders, and that's about it. Not really worth warranting all the money unless you're in it for the collector's reasoning behind it. The Luggan Recon craft is fantastic. The landing gear and the twin machine guns are a little bit fragile, but other than that, it does everything it needs to do. Again, it doesn't come with that ladder accessory that the older release had, but I'm not mad about that. It wasn't something I ever used to begin with. I actually like the clear handles that this one comes with instead. I think that's nice. So it's an interesting release that they did right in the middle of 0083 8th MS Team MSV. But like I said, I imagine a lot of people are going to pass on this one. So let me know if you picked it up, or if I was the only one crazy enough to pre-order it. and let me know what you think of it. Thank you for watching and supporting the channel, and I'll see you next time.